openly atheist anything in Texas.
If you say, you know, I'm an atheist, you turn a lot of people off right off the bat.
They'd harm me in some way, possibly kill me.
Dawkins famously stands up and says, "It is time for people of reason to say enough is enough."
The more you stand up and say, I don't believe in God, the better it will be for everybody else.
Is atheism the next great religion? As we found out in part 1 of Godless, atheism is popping up in the most surprising of places. Atheist skepticism is infiltrating the world's oldest religions.
I've been accused of taking Christ out of Christianity.
And many other non-believers are emulating religious structures and practices by congregating.
We are a church. We just don't have theological doctrines and dogmas.
Teaching skeptical thinking of old texts.
The wonderful thing about Chokhmah.
And in new Sunday schools.
So that the kids can have a sense of community.
Also, by offering reasons for morality without a need for a God.
Religion did not invent morality and has very little to do with it.
Part 2, Spreading the Word, explores if atheism can cause as much controversy and conflict as any other religion.
What about our age-old dream of a better life?
We ask if atheism can be as dogmatic as other religions.
Who stands up and says the buck stops here?
We question if atheist campaigns are proselytizing non-belief.
There's probably no God.
We find out if, like some devoutly religious, some atheists risk their lives for non-belief.
The punishment is execution.
And if atheism can stir up as much trouble as any other religion.
There's always a danger that they think they have a better grasp of rationality than others.
We start by asking if people can convert to atheism.
Definitely there is this sort of a group of people now growing.
To pick out any random religious person and force them to be an atheist, that's not what I want to do. What I call evangelical atheists. It's kind of like evangelical Christians that want to promote atheism because they believe that religion is bad for the world.
Conversion or just a bit of fun? You be the judge.
I am a co-host for the GoodAtheist.net podcast, which is the second biggest atheism podcast after Richard Dawkins, and I don't know what he did to deserve that, but we try our best, but we'll never be able to beat a British guy who's talking shit about religion. So I would like to encourage you all, if you have been baptized, to be debaptized this time.
Hold on. Did he say debaptized?
If you have been baptized, to be debaptized this time here. I'll just explain to you.
Debaptism it is. Atheists raised as Christians in Italy, the UK, the US, and Canada are cleansing themselves of their religion just as their baptism cleansed them of original sin. Is a debaptism really necessary?
I free you from hell.
My view as an atheist is that you're brainwashed into your religion from childhood by parents who raise you in that religion. So it's not something you ever consciously chose as an adult making an informed decision.
Okay, so what happens?
The way it's going to work is I'm going to ask people to stand who want to get debaptized, and after that we're going to get you to come up and get a certificate of debaptism while I baptize you with the official reason hair blower, the holy hair blower, which will dry off the baptism water that baptized you in the first place.
Strictly speaking, the vast majority of people who are baptized were baptized as children without their consent at the time. So to be taken out of that voluntarily is just exercising your rights as a person.
It's all in good fun, but with real meaning for some.
We shall undo the baptisms performed upon us against our will by religious organizations we neither believe in nor support. We are gathered here today to separate these men and women from a tie to unreasonable superstition. Do you renounce superstition and faith and will strive hereafter to be guided by reason and evidence? If so, then say, I do. I do.
But how might devout Christians react to this?
I think they would probably see it as an attack on religion. I don't think they should be offended. This is really just undoing something that they never wanted in the first place.
In the name of science and reason, I declare you nothing more than the biological survivor of millions of years of evolution.
Debaptized out of one great religion and into atheism?
The thing that religion or the church does provide is a community spirit. It provides a venue for them to share something that they value.
I don't know if I can free you. You seem sinful. I don't know. I'll forgive you anyways. Not through the power of Christ, but through the power of reason, which says that Christ does not exist.
All reason aside, it is apparently more natural for our brains to believe in a God. Psychologist James Alcock.
There's an appeal to supernatural explanations because the way our brains work from early childhood on, we're always looking for causes. It's because something has happened that doesn't easily have an explanation that people are pushed to religious explanations that we want to find an answer. If something falls off an airplane and crashes into your house, why your house? There are millions of houses around. And so all science will do is the obvious. It will say, well, a piece of ice fell off the plane, had to land somewhere, it happened to land in your house, big deal. But it's your house. And you say, but why me out of all the people? And some people will say, well, it's just chance. Other people will say, there must be a reason. These things happen for a reason. And you can see then how you're drawn back into religious thinking. And if you happen to have a religious belief system, maybe God is testing me or God is challenging me or whatever.
Knock, knock. Who's there? The atheist. The atheist who? You know what? I'm sorry. Never mind. I forgot. We don't actually knock on your door and bug you when you're doing other things. Please just back to whatever you were doing.
The library is full.
There are authors receiving accolade as the leaders of the new atheism. Most notably, Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris, and Daniel Dennett.
What do we think about that?
They can be found preaching the non-word wherever possible.
Religions still do not know how to live together in peace.
So what is the new atheist message?
I want to live in a world where people think skeptically for themselves. If you go through the world thinking that it's okay to just believe things because you believe them without evidence, then you're missing so much.
We should ask ourselves what our real objective is.
Yeah.
Do we, in fact, wish to see a world without faith? I think I would have to say that I don't.
It'll never work, but I don't understand why you wouldn't wish it.
I wish they would stop it, but then I would be left with no one to argue with.
Even if the four horsemen could agree on whether or not to eradicate the world of faith, what power do they have to do so?
When I hear about the new atheist, I remember what Solomon said, there's nothing new under the sun. Atheism is as old as the beginning of man.
They have certain people like Richard Dawkins, an outspoken atheist who promotes atheistic views.
Basically trying to share what they believe is the truth to the masses, and definitely they have the right to do so.
But if atheism is the next great religion, are the four horsemen its new popes?
Well, that's how it got started.
The question was posed at an atheist meetup group, one of several, usually far more unstructured gatherings that can be found in a neighborhood near you.
It's wrong to associate them with the Pope because they don't give us these actual rules to follow that impact our lives. Like, they give us thoughts and ideas, and we can agree or disagree, and we won't go to hell if we disagree with them.
No, they're not really that much like religious leaders. So if people say that Dawkins and Hitchens are like, quote, proselytizing or something, no.
Dawkins famously stands up and says, "It is time for people of reason to say enough is enough." Now he's obviously got an impulse toward spreading the word about this. That's evidence.
What the people like Dawkins and Hitchens, what they did for me was they really gave me kind of a confidence boost, you know, knowing that I just wasn't alone.
Yes. They start the conversation so that when 20 years ago when I would talk to people about atheism, it was a topic that you couldn't broach, but now I'm not going to be as ostracized by saying it.
I think it may be easier than we're supposing to shake people's faith.
You raise this issue, though, of whether or not we would wish the church is emptied. I would want a different church, but under some construal that doesn't presuppose any bullshit.
I think I would like to see churches empty. What I wouldn't like to see, however, is ignorance of the Bible.
You're sure you want to see the churches empty? You can't imagine a variety of churches which has ritual and loyalty, but where the irrationality has simply been laundered out.
Okay.
As we witnessed, There actually exists a variety of churches of non-belief. What about doctrine in a new atheist church?
I don't want it to become a doctrine, because then I feel it becomes like a religion, whereas I believe it's just the norm.
It really bothers me if people say, well, atheism is a religion on par with, you know, Islam or Christianity or Judaism. Atheism is to other religions as the off button is to the other channels on your television.
But this is the worry, is that eventually someone will decide there is only one truth relating to atheism.
People aren't taught critical thinking, people aren't taught debate, and that's what Dawkins and these people want. They want to get people arguing with each other and exchanging ideas. So if they're proselytizing anything, it's conversation.
Yes, thank you.
Is that what they're proselytizing?
We are quite willing to say there are many things we don't know. We know there'll be great new discoveries. That's the whole distinction.
They have a book that is
they get
verbatim
briefings from it.
Yes.
Now, you start off by saying, well, that's wrong to begin with. Now can we get on with it?
Yeah.
So theism's gone in the first round.
Yeah.
It's off the island.
Exactly.
It's out of the show.
Religions have contrived to make it impossible to disagree with them critically without being rude.
Without being rude.
Religion is held off the table of rational criticism in some kind of formal way, even by, we're discovering, our fellow secularists and our fellow atheists. You know, just
Maybe being a religion is the answer.
What if non-religious people call the bluff of the religious community and say, okay, have it your way, atheism is a religion. Religions in most countries get all sorts of legal protections and special privileges. Give us what we have coming to us.
Sunday keggers? I'm in.
I've come to Salt Lake City, Utah, capital of Mormonism. As religious door knockers always travel in twos, I thought I'd drag along my director, Craig Melville.
Hello, could I take a moment of your time to talk to you about atheism and the way it can change your life?
No, thanks though.
Basically, what us atheists believe, that the Bible isn't really true and that it's all just stories.
I'm a bishop.
How are you?
In the LDS Church.
The oldest church. Well, have you ever considered atheism? Oh, did we disturb you from your sleep? Oh, sorry, were you doing something else?
This is inappropriate. Take us off your list.
Atheism has faced its share of criticisms for atrocities against the religious. Communist countries of the former Soviet Union were opposed to all religion.
He must be eliminated!
Within a year of the revolution, the state expropriated all church properties, and in the 1920s, the regime killed 28 bishops and over 1,000 priests. While much of communism is now defunct, the religious are still persecuted in the state-sanctioned atheist countries of North Korea, China, Vietnam, Laos, and Cuba.
How many times are we going to have to counter the charge that Hitler, Stalin, and Pol Pot represent the end game of atheism? And it really convinces people. It really convinces liberals and moderates. It even convinces the occasional atheist.
Many atheists say atrocities are the result of adopting political dogma instead.
When people talk about Nazism or communism as having been atheist viewpoints that led to awful behavior, what they're forgetting is that they did so precisely by morphing into religion, by rejecting the possibility of critical thinking, by suppressing all kind of dissension, and that is exactly what is wrong with religion.
But what of atheist dogma? Just as every religion is a challenge to the truth of every other religion, atheism challenges all religion and is fundamentally incompatible.
Watch out!
If you're trying to really understand something, I think there's only one way you can do it. Evidence-based, rationalism, healthy skepticism, and that's what science is all about. It applies to all ways of knowing. So I think that is in conflict with every other contender. And if faith is a contender, it ain't flying.
Faith and scientific method are naturally incompatible. So too are their explanations for life.
Strict evolutionists know there is no room for God in the process, and Christians know there's no room for evolution in the process either.
On a matter of probability, it's extremely unlikely that any kind of supernatural creative intelligence exists.
You can be a dogmatic atheist, and you can be a dogmatic Christian, dogmatic Hindu. Dogmatism is quite separate from what it is that you believe in. It's a way of thinking, and it's a way of trying to tell others that this is the only way to believe.
There's no evidence for evolution. Those are blatant lies.
And the fight is on.
Evolutionary theory that all organisms share a common ancestor and have descended over a period of billions of years from relatively simple, more primitive organisms, that's a fact. That's not even a theory, that's just a scientific fact.
So where's the argument?
God must have done it. That's how the argument goes. Living things are highly complicated, they're elegant, they're beautiful, they're highly improbable statistically. And that is of the great creationist misunderstanding that Darwinian evolution is a matter of chance. God himself would have to be even more complicated and improbable an entity if he is to create life or to create the universe, let alone listen to prayers and forgive sins.
On a grassroots level, atheists around the world are mobilizing to challenge all religious faith.
Of that holy touch.
They are proselytizing reason and scientific method instead. Over the past few years, there has been a groundswell in atheist publicity campaigns. An actual sign, atheism is growing not just as an idea, but a movement or religion in its own right.
There are people who may find these ideas convenient.
The first ever atheist advertising campaign in Britain launched in 2008, a bus campaign that started as a joke in a blog and grew to become a global advertising campaign promoting a simple agnostic message. There's probably no God. Now stop worrying and enjoy your life.
I don't believe that the atheists are trying to attack Islam. I believe that atheism is simply trying to show their point of view.
Yes, they're proselytizing. Yes, they're saying, come on, wake up.
I think atheistic attacks, humanistic attacks, certainly are attacks on our faith, but I think the church needs to stand up and fight against these evils that really are going to, I believe, bring a premature end to our society.
Watch Fox News and you're told that there is a war on religion, that there's a war on Christmas. I mean, it's just so incredibly stupid.
Since the first atheist bus campaigns, others have launched more.
Let's get into the culture war. Tuesday mornings after 9 o'clock, we meet our panel and we discuss matters that lead to a lot of debate, even out-and-out conflict. And to that end, we welcome Justin Trottier. He is the National Executive Director of the Center for Inquiry. Good morning, Justin.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
It's your group that's planning to roll out a number of bus sides suggesting there's probably no God. Well, this year, if bus sides will say, quote, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, end quote. And you lump in Allah, Bigfoot, UFOs, homeopathy, Zeus, psychics, and Christ. What's the thinking, Justin?
Yeah, they do seem kind of arbitrary and random, but we believe that any claim, no matter whether it's a popular one or one that is only believed in by a small number of people in some cases, that these all equally deserve critical scrutiny.
To compare Jesus Christ with Bigfoot and Zeus is hateful. No thinking person would deny his existence. 24,000 ancient manuscripts that testified to his existence.
Hang on. Why is this guy blurred? This evangelical preacher expressed these views on radio but refused to be identified in this film.
You're saying it's lapsing into hate because you're actually denigrating his belief system.
Not at all. No. As it turns out, we do believe in things, in evidence.
You know, I'm sorry, Justin, but you are very intolerant of anyone else's belief system. You think that your belief system is the only system that can be taught in schools, the only system that can be in the public discourse in favor of banning the Bible.
When did I say? I never said that. I could understand why, to him, any skepticism of his cherished religious beliefs is tantamount to just debunking it completely and preaching atheism. There are churches right now, and I drive by them all the time, that have billboards on land which they don't pay taxes on because it's pretty much tax exempt in many cases. And those billboards say that without God, no morals are possible. That's hateful.
I'm just curious about this. I mean, if Christ is the one true God, then there's no room for Allah. Doesn't that also denigrate Allah or relegate him to secondary status?
Of course the Muslims believe in God, in Allah. Of course Christians believe in Jesus Christ. Is that hateful? No, it is your belief system. But you should knowingly
careful with what we say.
Really? What's this?
It would be like me taking out a bus ad saying that Justin Trottier is like Adolf Hitler. That would be hateful.
No, I have to make this point. The difference between respecting people and respecting their right to believe whatever they want. Respect and tolerance is just superficial if it means cowering in fear and not engaging with people except superficially accepting whatever they say. If we have extraordinary claims, but they're buttressed by extraordinary evidence, then I think it's right for us to invest our resources in exploring those claims and in using them to better our world in many ways.
The counterpart to all of this is if faith systems are being attacked and perhaps being subverted, isn't secular humanism a faith system?
And that's an interesting debate, and one of the many interesting debates that we hope that this kind of, project that we're doing engenders, because secular humanism is a worldview, and as part of the worldview, it does call for skepticism of religion. We do have a belief system. It is informed by science and evidence, and that does lead us to believe in what I would actually describe as extraordinary claims. Who would think that we're related so intimately to all life on Earth, but in fact, the evidence is there overwhelmingly.
I will speak again, but appreciate Justin Trottier, National Exec Director of the Center for Inquiry, coming in this morning to join our regular panelists.
Merry Christmas, my atheist friends.
Wow, all right. See, it is a religion of peace and love.
Amen.
So I told him the promised land was that crappy little area right off the Mediterranean. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Tiny place with no oil?
No oil.
Sir, you have to stop your people. You gotta send down an angel, do something.
Stop what? What are they doing?
They're gonna stone an innocent girl to death.
You're kidding. That's outrageous. What did she do?
Well, they're saying she's not a virgin.
Oh, well.
Well?
No, they can't be allowed to forget what they used to say when they were strong enough to get away with it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is, this is really true.
Right.
In every detail. And if you don't believe it,
we'll kill you.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Four Horsemen and other new atheists are the public face of an effort to encourage people to examine their faith in God. But what is it like for people who have left Islam for atheism in countries where questioning one's faith is against the law?
You realize how much dissent you would dare voice if you lived in one of the other countries? One little peep, bang.
I don't think I would be a very vocal, outspoken atheist if I lived in some other countries of the world where that would be a very dangerous thing to do.
We saw recently how a pastor made a claim to burn the Holy Quran, and he was saying, I'm on a mission from Christ. Okay, so now if I turn the tables and I say, look, is this what Christ and Jesus and Christianity taught? Okay, it's a lack of understanding.
The truth is, truth always divides. When you say there is one way to heaven, every other way is wrong, that certainly is a divisive statement.
Atheism has been deemed in the past, and is still deemed now, to be dangerous. And dangerous to what? Well, first of all, it's dangerous to the power of those people who exploit the credulity of other people for their own power.
Iran has been ruled by one religion, an Islamic theocracy, under the leadership of the Ayatollah Khomeini since the revolution of 1979.
Knowing the culture of any group charts the way to a fuller understanding of the people themselves.
We asked two couples who left the country to describe what life is like. A hint? They insist that their identities be concealed.
If, for example, they find you are an atheist, they can even kill you because of blasphemy.
So what does that mean for anyone who questions Islam?
I brought up in a total atheist family, so my mom didn't believe in God, but we always knew that we should hide it from everybody in school.
They told us there are very evil persons living in this world, like Darwin and Freud.
Really?
Yes, that's very sad.
Apparently in Iran, for some, books are bad.
There is book censorship.
You can't mention censorship without mentioning
Salman Rushdie. Everybody was talking about it, and everybody's saying if anybody read this book,
will be punished by death. So I was so desperately want to read that book.
What about going back?
Even now, every single time when I want to pass the border and I show my passport to the security guard, I really feel afraid. I'm not an activist. I'm not doing anything. My name doesn't appear anywhere. But I still feel that fear.
My family back home, the government found out that there is an atheist in the family, will be accused of apostasy, which is punished by death.
My parents, they're so afraid. They just don't want me to go back home. And they will tell me that you have to shut down your Facebook page.
Our couples are optimistic. Iran's religious rule can't last forever.
It's against sex, it's against drinking, it's against...
The problem is regime.
The people are the same. There's internet, they can get any information they want.
There are new groups about atheism.
This is life for people who never came out in Iran as atheists and who hide their images still. Brahim is a political refugee from Algeria, not a theocracy, but where military-backed President Abdelaziz Bouteflika has been in power since 1999, and the legal system is socialist and based on French and Islamic law.
It can contribute nothing but confusion in an area already very much disturbed.
So, why a refugee?
I grew up as a Muslim, and until the age of about 14 to 15, then I rejected, I stopped being a Muslim, basically. I rejected Islam and became slowly, atheist. And then after the 90s, when the Civil War started, it became very common that if you are an atheist, if you don't, not even atheist, if you just don't pray, or if a woman doesn't wear the veil, then it's a clear sign to them that someone rejects at least one precept of Islam. And if you do that, then in Islam, you're not a Muslim. I was targeted, basically, I was called an atheist, I was called a communist, a Jew, anything but Muslim. For them, they all see all this as one category, that is no Muslim. If you're not a Muslim, that it's okay to kill you. And it's more than okay. So in many cases, it is required to kill you. It's very clearly stated in the Quran and the Hadith.
Questioning one's faith may also leave you in a life-threatening position with your own family. This is what happened to one American. For safety, her identity is concealed.
My family does not know I'm an atheist. They'd harm me in some way, possibly kill me, because my family was fairly religious. They were Sunni Muslim. I believed in the Quran and also the Hadith and Sharia.
Why hide?
Well, I'm 18 years old, first of all, and my dad's planning to send me to a country in the Middle East to marry a guy I don't even know. And obviously when you're emotional, you think irrationally, you do crazy things. So I went on to my online forum and talked to my friends, and I said, I need help. Can somebody out there help me? I need to leave the situation, and they're threatening to kill me because I don't want to get married.
She's now living on the run.
Well, I don't call them family anymore. I call them people who are related to me, because those are not my family.
You suck. Go burn in hell. Satan will enjoy torturing you. Our God is a loving God. But if you keep peddling this kind of filth, then I pity you when Jesus returns. Ha ha, you dumbass. I hope you get hit by a church van tonight.
Outside the Muslim world, the only remaining theocracy is the Vatican, recognized in 1929 as an independent city-state ruled by the Pope. The U.S. is a secular state, but is more religious than other advanced wealthy nations. It is also less trusting of those who aren't. When asked who shares their vision of American society, Americans rate atheists below Muslims, recent immigrants, and gays and lesbians.
Here I am, all set.
As free thinkers, we are doing good work because we are trying to be good people.
But about 50% of Americans would object to an atheist son or daughter-in-law. And many see atheists as elitist, amoral, or given to criminal behavior or drugs. In short, while Americans become more tolerant of other minorities, atheists are a glaring exception to the rule.
It is a contest for the minds and hearts of people around the world.
Discrimination against atheism has even been sanctioned by leaders. As presidential nominee in 1987, George H.W. Bush said, "No, I don't know that atheists should be considered as citizens, nor should they be considered as patriots. This is one nation under God.
Because we live in an incredibly conformist society, despite the fact that we think we live in a very diverse society, I think that's actually not true.
We're the untouchables. You don't want to associate with us.
I think we ought to have the same loving attitude that Jesus had. He said, I came to seek and to save those who are lost.
Certainly in the United States, if you're a politician and you're seeking election, you come out and say you're an atheist, the chances of you getting elected are very slim.
In Dallas, Texas, we see how public opinion plays a part in the daily lives of non-believers. Teacher and mother of two, Amy Parsons, ran for the State Board of Education in 2010.
I started to run for State Board of Education District 12, which is in Dallas.
The State Board needs to fundamentally change their actions.
It was quite a journey.
Here's her story.
I absolutely lost the election when people found out I was agnostic. I received a phone call from a reporter for a social conservative newspaper in one of the districts that I was running in. And he said, well, I know your opponent is gay for sure, and I found out about Camp Quest.
For many, Sunday is a day for church, but a group of North Texas families wanted to provide an alternative environment for atheists and non-believers. New at 10, CBS 11's Marianne Martinez takes us to Camp Quest.
It's a really hard thing to find a camp that doesn't have a Bible study.
She wanted it to focus on fun.
But it wasn't fun for her campaign.
So what you're telling me is that I have a gay and an atheist to choose from? What is this world coming to? And I didn't really know how to answer him. Like, was he serious, you know? And so I said, well, I guess so. I'm not as emotionally tough as you have to be.
What happened next is what surprised Amy most.
Before being outed, I did not realize the ramifications. In one particular district, there are about 10,000 people, and the majority of that 10,000 people said that they would vote for me earlier on in my race. You know, but as soon as the social conservative reporter came out, looked up to see that district, and I only received about 1,000 votes from that one district.
From majority support to out of the running just for being labeled atheist.
And I was shocked at how far it had fallen. You know, they had endorsed me at one point in time as a collective. And so to see that was, I really understood what politics was all about.
We were making a place where people could worship God. And these people want to deny God and want to deny him to others.
So, what can an openly atheist student expect to face? Meet 15-year-old Jason and his father, who asked to be concealed to protect his seasonal employment as Santa Claus.
Well, he was in the 7th grade when we moved here. Before long, we started hearing reports from him about bullying.
There was some verbal harassment. Then it escalated to actual physical harassment, punching me in the arm and the leg, stuff like that.
As we got more information from him, it became clear that it was at least partly due to the fact that he considered himself an atheist.
Somehow the topic of religion started in the 2nd semester, and when they finally asked me, what religion are you, I just said, I don't have religion, I'm an atheist. And from that day forward, it just got worse and worse.
I spoke with the assistant principal about it, but nothing happened.
The teen was pulled from school and is now homeschooled. Amy Parsons pulled her 5-year-old from public school too.
And a bunch of our PTA moms that we hung out with since he was 14 months would no longer talk to me. And I was okay with being ostracized as an adult. I was very worried that the kids would start ostracizing him, and the teachers especially. I just felt that it was in our best interest to look for another school.
He now attends a private Montessori school. What about free-thinking teachers? Well, this one wants his identity concealed too.
I think it's very tough to be an openly atheist anything in Texas, but especially teacher. I was a music teacher at an international baccalaureate school. I was teaching all my kids to question everything. It seems to me that's one of the most important things in education is to teach kids how to think. One particular rich mama, though, took that as a religious and political affront, and finally the day she walked into the office and said, if he's not gone by the end of the day, you'll never see another penny from our family. I was gone by the end of the day.
No. We heard similar stories from other teachers who preferred to stay off camera. And the stories go on.
My atheism has been a part of the court process since I first got divorced. I had to not only swear on a Bible, I also had to justify my religious beliefs as to whether I would be an appropriate parent.
And on.
He actually told me, I cannot have you working here not believing in God.
But what happens when parents try to enforce the U.S. principle of separating church from state? Or at least from schools.
Do you believe in that kind of talk? I don't know, makes pretty good sense to me.
Here's David Croft's experience.
I have 5 children. Their ages range from 1 to 15 years old. So we've noticed a pattern of continuous religious infringement in our local elementary school. It started with things like in a Boy Scouts rally, recruitment rally. My son would come home to me, be very excited about participating in this fun event. And I would say, look, you know, they discriminate against atheists and homosexuals, and we have both of those in our family. We can't endorse this private religious organization. School was introducing the concept of God and prayer to my children when I did not want them exposed to that.
David appealed to the school, and these recruitments no longer take place during school hours. But it was a different story when he challenged the state.
We came across this moment of silence law. One teacher told my students that this was a minute for prayer. I felt that I needed to challenge these laws because I, as a parent, was telling my children, no, God is just pretend, don't waste your life on that kind of thing. So the court cases wound their way through the courts up to the federal appeals levels. We were denied on both of our cases. The rationale, these things were not religious in their intent, that they were just a patriotic exercise, or that since it was general monotheism was permissible. So as long as you're, you know, Christian, Jewish, or Muslim, you're fine.
What effect did the court case have on the family?
Take a glance at our blogs when the cases were in the news, you'll see that there are hundreds of email from, you know, angry Christians saying things that you wouldn't want to expose children to, even though they posted it on our children's blogs.
I'm instructing my son to use his moment of silence at school to pray for your family. You may succeed in taking away our moment of silence, but you will never take away our right to pray to our Lord and Savior.
You obviously need a hobby, or maybe a life. We don't gripe because you have no God and are doomed, so just shut up and leave all the Christians alone, or move to Iraq.
My response has been to explain to the children and help them understand that I know the sacrifices they're making.
Check this out, my little lady.
What is this?
It's what I'm giving my people.
This is what you're giving your people?
Yeah, pretty cool, huh?
Your chosen people, this is what you're giving them?
I know, it's a bit much, huh? Is it too generous? Is that what you're thinking? Because you look stunned.
So you're not going to give them science or medicine or...
Sweetie, they don't need a God for that kind of thing. They'll figure it out on their own if they're left to think for themselves. Quite frankly, I think what the Greek gods are doing to their people is a terrible disservice.
Why?
Because everything you've mentioned there just gives people hope. It makes them think, oh, we can make the world a better place. That's not what they need. What they need is all kinds of useless minutiae to keep themselves distracted.
We've seen how atheists can offend the religious, and how atheists in turn can face discrimination for their anti-religious positions. Is conflict inevitable between theism and atheism?
We human beings are not born with prejudices.
Are atheists offensive as soon as they open their mouths, creating further divisions rather than winning hearts and minds?
Many in the atheist community and in the atheist world look at those of us who are people of faith as being open targets of ridicule.
A lot of the attack on the Catholic Church by atheists, unfortunately, it's based on misunderstandings.
They'll say religion is a teddy bear for grown-ups, or when you're praying to yourself. You know, stuff like that. They have slogans to mock Christians. I don't think that's healthy.
I tend not to think of it as science winning versus religion. I tend to think of it as sort of rational ways of thinking winning out over superstitious ways of thinking.
Are there ways to get an atheist message out without offending? Psychology professor James Alcock thinks so.
You know, well-known atheists such as Dawkins and Hitchens and so forth
clearly are trying to persuade people, but unfortunately, I think they put a wall up between themselves and the very people that they would like to persuade. One of the problems, I think, even with the word atheism, is that it tends to put a line between those who are and those who aren't. If you're trying to talk to someone and say, you know, I'm an atheist, you turn a lot of people off. We need, A, to respect their point of view, because we can't say we're smart and they're stupid. If we say that, we lose the conversation right off the bat. And B, we have to present a message in a way that will interest them in having some more dialogue.
Even one of the renowned new atheists is backing away from the label.
We should not call ourselves atheists. We should not call ourselves secularists. We should not call ourselves secular humanists. We should not call ourselves anything. The conflict between faith and reason and religion and science has been and will continue to be successfully marginalized under the banner of atheism. I think we should simply advocate intellectual honesty. Why should we stand in the space carved out by the conceptual scheme of theistic religion? I mean, it's as though our opponents, before any debate, have drawn the chalk outline of a dead man on the sidewalk, and we just walk up and lie down in it.
But can an atheist message be served up in a more palatable way?
Our own policy toward them has been one strictly of watchful, non-intrusive friendship.
Perhaps humor is a way to share views less offensively. Satirical songwriter and religious skeptic Roy Zimmerman was raised Lutheran. He now promotes critical thinking using humor.
I would listen to a sermon in church.
God made the world in 7 days.
I often say I was raised a Lutheran and lowered a musician.
And that's what I call scientific.
My earliest songs were religious songs. I was attempting to write songs for, that Lutherans would like.
Monday, August 27.
But they always had kind of like a sour note in them for Christians. I don't understand. I didn't understand at the time, and now I kind of understand, I suppose.
101, in the beginning it begun, and you are just beginning to educate yourself when you shun evolution.
That's my role, I suppose you'd say, in this world, to take a satirical look at these things, poke some holes in pomposity, point out the hypocrisy of this thing or that thing, and hold things up for the absurdity of what they are.
In this class, who might believe in Charles Darwin?
That was a thing I was holding up right there. That was absurd. I don't know if you could tell, but it was a mime thing I did where it was an absurd thing.
Because he's just plain over sex.
It's easy to get people to laugh at stereotypes.
You ain't no monkey's great-grandson.
It's really gratifying for me when I can get people to laugh at a concept, at an idea, at an argument that I might be making, and that people start talking about, and that makes some change happen in that regard.
Kids get such an education. When they shun the heretical theory of the development of life on Earth over millions of years by means of spontaneous genetic mutation.
Made you laugh? Maybe some non-believers just can't help poking a little fun.
Free you from everything that Christ has ever said you must be and will ever.
Whether it's a good idea or not.
We must never let ourselves be divided by race or color or religion.
If it walks like a religion and talks like a religion,
those principles being free thought,
and it's spreading around the world like a religion, maybe atheism is the world's next great religion.
This certainly is an age of progress, isn't it?
It has many denominations, from skeptics and freethinkers to secular humanists to atheist Christians and so on. And like all religions, atheism holds all other religions to be wrong.
There's no polite way to say to somebody,
you've wasted your life.
Do you realize you've wasted your life?
Some give reasons to proselytize.
We are controversial and provocative.
A few give reasons to declare their atheism, even at risk to their own well-being.
The punishment is execution.
Other non-believers choose a more subtle approach.
The beliefs that we're teaching here are beliefs about how to live in the world.
In the end, the choice to believe or not to believe and how to publicly express beliefs in the democratic world is personal. And thank God for that.
It was interesting to argue with other atheists because you expect to argue with the opposition as opposed to people who are like-minded, but there's still plenty to argue about.